Hello, my name is Funk McLovin. I have been involved in the Homestuck fan community since 2020, as well as being a major contributor to large projects such as organizing the SOCCON music albums, moderating for SOCCON, contributing to FriendSim 2 and Befriendus, and creating a large Homestuck rewrite project called HSAU. And before I left Twitter, I had nearly 10,000 followers. I have a privileged position in Homestuck and have recently left the fandom. I now make more general content, but I feel that what I know as a former major Homestuck contributor must be known publicly in light of the Homestuck pilot developed by vivziepop's Spindleroo studio. I have been silent for too long. I have the key that will make people finally understand the meaning behind the recent absolute chaos of the fandom, from the unofficial collection to Fraff, and all of it hinges on the Homestuck pilot. In other words, I will explain everything. But first, we must learn our history. What led to this animated pilot? What led to all this chaos? Before I explain everything, and you can probably tell by the length of this video, it is going to take a while. So please, be patient. Please hear me out. I will get to everything eventually. We need to learn some history first. We need to start from the beginning. This is a zoetrope. When you view the zoetrope through one of the slats, the figure inside will appear as though it is moving. This is one of the earliest devices that led to animation as we know it today. Early forms of animation come from the ancient Greek times. However, more formalized forms of animation were not created until the 1800s. So that is where we are going to start our video. I already mentioned the zoetrope. I'm sure you're familiar with flipbooks, which are also called kineographs, which are pictured as such. This is a mutoscope. This was an early form of actual film and depicts a character dancing in this one. It was invented by Herman Kassler, and it used frames in sequence to create the illusion of motion. And this illusion of motion is what led to animation arising as an art form in the 19th and 20th centuries. In the 20th century, this was I think I skipped one. In the 20th century, I didn't skip one. The 20th century's animated works are very early. In other words, they are works that are marked by stylistic inconsistency. They are works that are marred by novelty. In other words, it was very difficult for people to take seriously animation. It is a curiosity at this form. First, you have a film called Poivre Perot, which is French. It was released in 1892, and the technique was used where they took a film of a solid object and they depicted characters on top of it. It was shown in theaters, and it was the first example of theatrical animation. The figures on the right were drawn over the background. This was all in color, which is very fascinating because the first actual animated shorts were not in color. Another early form of animation was a man named J. Stuart Blackton's Enchanted Drawing film. In this film, they used various film techniques to make the face, you can see a clip from the film on the right, they made a face move around. This was one of the first examples of a real-life actor interacting with an animation. Also by J. Stuart Blackton was Humorous Phases of Funny Faces, which was a very early animated thing. It took the same principle of changing the drawing on the right, and it changed the drawing to make a kind of story. This was a very, very early form of animation, and it was Also made on a very tight budget. Next we have a figure called Emile Cole. Emile Cole made a film called Phantasmagorie. I believe this is also a French film, and it depicted a black and white character on a black background with white chalk, and he's going through various different interesting transformations. This is the first time that we're seeing a character actually become animated in a more formal sense. This is what animation would resemble in the modern day. Next, we have Winsor McCay. Winsor McCay is a little more ambitious than what we've previously discussed. Winsor McCay says, I think I'm a cartoonist, and I like the potential of animation. Cartoons were a very popular form of entertainment at the time, and he thought, what if I could make a cartoon that was actually in motion? And so he makes Gertie the Dinosaur. If you've taken an animation history class, you're probably familiar with Gertie the Dinosaur. Gertie the Dinosaur is often shown in these classes because this is now in the public domain, and it is basically the first example of what would become animation as it were. Don't worry, I'm going to be getting to vivziepop and Homestuck. Just bear with me. Thank you. Next, we have the advent of film. In the 1920s, especially in America, early silent films were captured by what is called a cinematograph, which is a frame-by-frame cranking film you might have seen depicted in other films. Theaters were popularized, a dark room where you can go to see movies, and of course, Walt Disney came onto the scene. The Walt Disney Company, founded in 1932, is the first example of a studio that is devoted to animation. Steamboat Willie is another famous early animated film. Steamboat Willie represents one of the first theatrical shorts that was created for film. It's not very sophisticated, it is now in the public domain, and it is very fascinating as a look into the past. A lot of people forget this because Disney has become a monolithic enterprise, but the Walt Disney Company is responsible. Walt Disney specifically, and Ub Iwerks and Roy Disney, are specifically credited with popularizing the genre. Without them, there would probably be no animation as we know it today. Silly Symphonies is Walt Disney's brand. They are little cute stories that are told through animation, and a lot of the people who start working at Disney become cemented figures in what would become known as the animation art form. As a rival to Disney, we see Fleischer Studios, which is started by Max and Dave Fleischer, and it's they're home to the Betty Boop cartoons. What we're going to see a lot in this early form of animation is Disney as a monolith and other rivals coming to take their seat. And none of them really succeed until later on. This is what we would call the rubber hose cartoons. This is what we would refer to with that. Betty Boop is still an icon. I believe they also did the Popeye stuff. They did with their little clown character there, they did Out of the Inkwell. I think this was supposed to move, this image, but it's not, so we're just going to pretend that it's moving. Everyone close your eyes and pretend it's moving. That, too, is a kind of animation. Also, we're going to get to the vivziepop stuff pretty soon. Just bear with me. We're going to be sort of going through this. It becomes important, I promise. Oh, yeah, here we go. Betty Boop and Popeye, like I said, in the 1930s. Not many people are doing animation yet. However, the art form has gone from a novelty in the 1890s into now an actual respected style of film. Maybe a little childish, but a style of film. Next we have Looney Tunes, which is started by Warner Brothers. This little fucking butterball right here is Leon Schlesinger. And he is just one of the most influential people in the industry. He's not an animator himself, but Leon Schlesinger is a very interesting person. Warner Brothers, Herman Eisling Productions, it becomes Schlesinger Productions in 1933, and they start making a lot of things, such as, I lost my place. They make Merry Melodies. You're familiar with Merry Melodies. It's Bugs Bunny, etc. And Warner Brothers, like I said before, is a Disney rival. They competed in theatrical markets for the same space. Merry Melodies was obviously a riff on Silly Symphonies, and Warner Brothers has more edge to it. You know, Bugs Bunny is more likely to be sassy than Mickey. Mickey is very wholesome. You can kind of see it as Mario versus Sonic in a very early form. Next, you have this. This is a watershed moment in animation. Snow White is the first feature-length animated film. It is one of the first colored animated films. This is a breathtaking achievement in animation. In 1937, approximately 5 years after the concept of animation is introduced, Disney pulls off this tour de force of Snow White. Snow White still holds up today. Wonderful film, excellent stuff. I love Snow White. Early Disney is very close to my heart. However, it's not going to last, as we're going to see. Disney, they do a lot of things to improve on animation. They use a multiplane camera, which is a piece of technology you can see on the right, where if you move the camera, since the different elements are at different lengths away from the camera, you get a parallax effect, which is very interesting. It adds sort of a 3D depth to this. The state of the animation as we move into the 1940s is different. You get into things like Superman, you get more feature-length films from Disney such as Dumbo and Bambi, and essentially this is an era marked by Disney versus Fleischer, with Disney kind of dominating. However, Fleischer, we're going to get into what happened. Also, I'm still going to get to the vivziepop stuff, the Homestuck stuff coming, just please bear with me. So, as we go to the 1950s, you get an increased commercialization of animation. A lot of people are getting TVs in their home. And I don't want to quote the statistic incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure this was about the time when there's a point in time where they measured half of American families have a TV in their home. This is the time where television is becoming huge in America, the boob tube. A lot of techniques are being revolutionized during this time, and there are more studios on the scene than just Fleischer and Disney. You have Hanna-Barbera. They try to capture a market that is being untapped. They're trying to get into television animation with a lot of characters, basically flooding the networks with these different little drawings and whatnot. They have a quantity over quality approach, and I don't necessarily mean that to mean they have bad stuff. I more mean that they have a lot of characters that you'll recognize and a lot of characters that you won't recognize. They have a lot of characters. They try to kind of just pump stuff out as fast as they can. Their big hit is obviously Scooby-Doo. Disney in the 1950s are confident. They're more ambitious. They're getting into things like Sleeping Beauty, Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland. I don't know why Old Yeller is in there. That's not an animated film. But this is the kind of thing that's going on during this time. Warner Brothers in the 1950s are doubling down on the theatrical shorts. In other words, they have not made a project as ambitious as Disney. They are focused on efficiency, much like Hanna-Barbera. They're scrubbing their cells, which means a lot of actual animation was just lost during this time and cannot be reconstructed, which is very unfortunate. They're also kind of going quantity over quality in this era, but their quality is slightly higher. In the 1960s, animation has been established. It's been around for about 30 years now, and you're seeing people get more ambitious. There's a lot of live action mixing in this time to try to gain some, shall we say, more novelty. There are new techniques during this time. And of course, there is the incredible Mr. Limpet, which is one of the most influential animated pieces of media of all time. Just kidding. No one knows the incredible Mr. Limpet, And if nothing else from this video, I hope that you come away with more knowledge about the incredible Mr. Limpet. All right, then you have the Dick Tracy Show. It's crime oriented. Again, it's an attempt to try to make animation a little more adult, more serious subject matter, etc., etc. You have A Boy Named Charlie Brown, which is by Cinema Center Films, which is kind of this for hire kind of deal. Charlie Brown is obviously this is going back to taking inspiration from comics. There is a very clear through line from comics to animation. Now, let's take a brief moment to talk about what's going on internationally. In Japan, a very large swath of animation is being released in the 1960s, such as Astro Boy, Kimba the White Lion, Speed Racer. This is all inspired by Disney. You can see Astro Boy on the right here. He has those big Disney eyes. He has kind of a cute face. He's very childish. Japan is trying to edge in on an art form that they admire. A lot of stuff is Disney inspired. Hayao Miyazaki, who would later go on to obviously have Miyazaki Studios, My Neighbor Totoro, etc., cites Disney as a direct inspiration. And this is interesting to me because Japanese animation is so tonally different than Western animation. They seem to be inspired by Disney and taking that inspiration in a completely different direction. Very interesting. There's also some stuff from Russia. There's Soyuz Multfilm. There's Grandfather Ivan. And there's Song of a Falcon, which is paint on film. It's a very stylistically interesting piece. I think you should, if you can find it, watch it. It's very interesting. Grandfather Ivan is kind of this weird-looking thing. Russian animation is going to have an influence on American animation later on. We're going to talk about that. Also, just bear with me. I'm going to get to the vivziepop stuff very, very soon. It's almost done. I just had to get this groundwork completely covered. Disney in the 70s is less prolific and has more competition and kind of falls into a lull. Movies like Pete's Dragon and The Rescuers are not counted among the really good Disney films that one might think of. And that's, they're kind of going through it right now. They're not having fun. They are a cultural touchstone, and the 70s was decidedly anti-cultural or countercultural. There are other features in the 60s. The 60s is an era of commercials, General Mills mascots, etc., etc. That is being used. People notice that if animation is for kids, then it can be used in commercials. You have features from Ralph Bakshi, like The Lord of the Rings. You have Scooby-Doo getting some feature stuff. Fucking Warner Brothers getting in on it. Watership Down is a wonderful film. You're kind of seeing animation struggling to get an adult audience. Now we'll talk about Ralph Bakshi. If you're familiar with animation, you've heard this name before. I want to single out the film Wizards, because Wizards is one of his lesser known works, but it's very emblematic of what he does. It is a very sexually charged fantasy, and it has a wonderful animation style that mixes a lot of different inspirations, like rotoscoping, like this kind of Disney-inspired thing. And all in all, his vision is very potent, and I find it very interesting. I've included him in this presentation because I find him influential, and I just kind of like the guy. He had some questionable politics or questionable things that he said, but in the context of animation, the things he made, like Fritz the Cat, Wizards, very cool. So, in the 1980s, something big happens. Animation has been established for nearly 50 years now, and there is a boom of studios that are entering TV programming blocks. There is a huge wave of theatrical talent from a college called Cal Arts, which is, you've probably heard the name Cal Arts, probably derisively. You're getting a lot of money pumped into animations from advertisers. In this era, there's a lot of classic cartoons like X-Men, Transformers, things that were syndicated to run and run and run. You have international proliferation. Smurfs is being syndicated and dubbed in the US, and of course you have the advent of Studio Ghibli. We also have Don Bluth during this time. Don Bluth is a former Disney guy, and he got sick of the way Disney did things. And this is going to be a theme that is recurrent throughout this presentation. His most famous works are The Secret of Nim and Land Before Time, but he also had other films which I consider very good, such as An American Tail and Anastasia. Anastasia is one of what I would call the best animated films ever. That might not be a popular opinion. I'm only saying that because I watched it when I was a kid, but I think it really holds up. Now, Don Bluth Animation, it splits from Disney, like I said, and it has mixed results as an animation studio. It's also trying to branch out into other kind of art forms, like Space Ace, which is pictured here, or Dragon's Quest, I think it's called, which were arcade games that were animated by Don Bluth. In 1988, you have another film that kind of changed the landscape. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It's by Richard Williams. I think there's more slides on Richard Williams here. We're going to be getting to vivziepop in a minute. I got to get through all this. This is important. This will become important later to the Homestuck stuff. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit represents a kind of reconciliation between Disney and Warner Brothers. There's a scene in Who Framed Roger Rabbit of Bugs Bunny and Mickey interacting, and I find it very poignant. And here we have Roger interacting with a real character. Richard Williams, amazing guy. Who Framed Roger Rabbit, one of the best films, I think, of animation. You also see a kind of artistic bent to animation in music videos on MTV. Animation is seen as a more legitimate artistic genre, especially these kind of stylized things like Pink Floyd's The Wall or the Take On Me video, which is pictured in the middle. There's easier access to people who are into animation as a talent and people coming out of Cal Arts and whatnot. And there's also, like I talked about before, a proliferation of commercialization. Okay, now we're going to fucking talk about Richard Williams. Fuck yes. So this guy, he wrote the book on animation. I'm not saying that metaphorically. He literally wrote the book on animation. The principles of animation that he taught are still taught in schools to this day. If you like an animator who made stuff after the 90s, Richard Williams is one of the biggest influences of that mold. He would animate famously on ones, which means he hand drew every single frame of animation on the page. It is an amazing dedication to the craft. He is one of the finest craftsmen of all animators, and he deserves every droplet of people sucking him off, in my opinion. The Thief and the Cobbler was stolen from him. That's a whole different topic for a different video. This video is about vivziepop's Homestuck reboot. So, there are a lot of early computer experiments with animation, and by computer experiments I mean like digital animation attempts, like 3D animation, etc., etc. This is going to come up later. The only reason I mention it now is because of that. Okay, now we're talking about the 90s, an era that some of you might be able to actually remember. Disney, they're back, baby. They had a little bit of a rough patch, but they came back. They're back. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, Hercules, Mulan, Tarzan, Hunchback, Pocahontas. This is their moment. I would consider this era of Disney to be even stronger than their advent. It is incredible what they were able to do in the 1990s, and it is very sad that that was the last era that Disney was actually pretty good. In the 90s, there's also more avant-garde television animation coming from Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, which I'm going to talk about soon. Influences such as John Kricfalusi and Klasky Shupo. First, let's talk about Cartoon Network, which is founded in 1992. Originally, this was kind of a home for older cartoons, Hanna-Barbera stuff, which gradually introduced very successful original programming, such as the Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory. Two figures that are going to come out of this tradition are Genndy Tartakovsky and Lauren Faust. And they are two of my favorite figures in this kind of animation world. Oh, they did, Genndy Tartakovsky did Dexter's Lab. He went on to do things like Samurai Jack, etc., etc. We also have Nickelodeon, which was introduced earlier. They were not specifically about animation, but in the 90s they pivoted to animation. They're a cable network for children. Nicktoons is their cartoon programming block. They import foreign films and they kind of get their feet wet that way. Then they also pivot to original programming with things like Rugrats and SpongeBob. Klasky Csupo and Steven Hillenburg are big influences on Nickelodeon. Klasky Csupo did Rugrats, they did Early Simpsons, they did, I want to say, The Wild Thornberrys. You also have the Animaniacs from 1993 from Warner Brothers, and Animaniacs are just iconic. Steven Spielberg basically went to Warner Brothers and was like, hey, what if we just had some fun with it? What if we just had some fucking fun? And Warner Brothers are like, damn, you're right. You're right, Steven. Thank you. There are other TV animations that are coming in this time. Disney tries its hand at television animation with the Disney Channel, and of course PBS Kids starts programming like educational content. Very cool. Arthur, famous. And then we also have anime. Anime in the 1990s is also feeling itself. You got Aeon Flux, you got Trigun, you've got Neon Genesis Evangelion, you've got Dragon Ball, which came out actually earlier. You can see Slayers down there. Great Teacher Onizuka, Yu Yu Hakusho. Really good stuff. The 1990s is telling really interesting, good stories. And the 1990s anime is telling more adult stories than anything that's going on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. I mean, they are really killing it. I would say in the 1990s, Japan had us beat for animation. I mean, Cowboy Bebop is just so fucking iconic. I don't even need to say anything about that. All right, I've only got a couple slides left. I'm going to get to the vivziepop stuff, the Homestuck stuff, very soon. So just bear with me. Thank you. Next, we have Studio Ghibli. And in the slide, I wrote, holy shit, because that's all you need to say. If you've seen a Studio Ghibli movie, you have seen a very appealing animation. They do a lot to make animation look absolutely, positively beautiful as an art form. One of the underrated Studio Ghibli films, I think, is Lupin III, Castle of the Cagliostro. A lot of people don't actually know that's a Studio Ghibli movie, but my favorite Ghibli movies are probably Totoro, very good. Mononoke, very good. My absolute fucking favorite, though, is Spirited Away. Gold. Fucking gold. Amazing film. Pixar also comes around in the late 90s. In 1999, they are founded, and they quickly come out with Toy Story and A Bug's Life. They are using revolutionary 3D animation. They are the first ones to do it. I didn't mention it in the slides, but there is a music video called Money for Nothing, which uses an incredibly rudimentary 3D animation technique. This is the first time that 3D animation actually looks good. They are pioneers. They are a subsidiary to Disney, and they go on to be one of the most influential groups in modern animation. Disney would actually start emulating them in their own films. For instance, the movie Frozen, the movie Tangled, etc., etc. DreamWorks also arises from this time. And DreamWorks is my personal favorite animation studio. Just truly breathtaking films. The Prince of Egypt, god damn. They were another group that peeled off from Disney. Katzenberg was a executive at Disney who said, fuck this, I'm going to make my own animation studio. It's a man named Geffen. I don't remember his first name. Steven Spielberg and Jeffrey Katzenberg. They released Prince of Egypt in 1998 to incredible acclaim. Very popular movie, very wonderful. And you know what I just noticed is, in this poster, the nipples on Moses are really, really off-center. Like, that's not where they should be. That's kind of bugging me. I'm gonna click to the next slide. So, there's a lot more going on than at the beginning in this thing. So, I want to kind of do a lightning round of what's going on in the 90s. First, you have The Iron Giant, very good movie. James and the Giant Peach in 1996, also very good movie. Uses stop motion animation, which I did not talk about, but I should have. You have Princess Mononoke in 1997 from Studio Ghibli. You have Beavis and Butthead Do America. I'm not going to lie, I don't remember why I put that specific movie on this 90s Rapid Fire Lightning Round. You have Cool World. I wish I put a picture of Cool World. It's a good movie. And then you have the South Park film, which is kind of a irreverent film. Obviously, in South Park is kind of an engine unto itself in animation. So, let's talk about the broad themes of the show so far. And this is, okay, I'm almost done. I'm like so fucking close to being done. I'm going to talk about vivziepop soon. This is all going to be very important very soon. So the themes so far are Disney as an animation maypole. In other words, they are a solid foundation around which all of the rest of the animation stuff is spinning. There are a lot of Disney rivals and spin-offs, and Disney is kind of losing hold of its cultural cachet. There's the advent of television as animation, running parallel to theatrical animation. And there's a consistent theme of counterculture expressed through animation. And then you have animation as art in music and commercials. A lot of avant-garde stuff going on in music and commercials at this time. All right, now we have the turn of the century. And as I think it was the President Abraham Lincoln who said, everything's computer. Everything's computer. Obviously, computers are everywhere, and they are going to revolutionize animation hugely, bigly. Okay, folks, you knew it was coming. Shrek. Let's talk about Shrek. Are we ready to talk about Shrek? I'm ready to talk about Shrek. Let's talk about fucking Shrek. Shrek is a sea change. Shrek, to me, represents, in 2001, the turn of the millennium, obliterating Disney. Disney does not recover from Shrek. Disney is writing on the wall. It is a piece of graffiti. Shrek is love, as we know, and Shrek is life. However, Shrek was a cultural moment that is very hard to overstate. Shrek was Minions before Minions. Shrek was just astonishingly popular. It was astonishingly hyped. It was astonishingly, it just flooded the marketplace with like Shrek Go-Gurt, Shrek shirts, Shrek Twinkies, Shrek masks, Shrek Halloween costumes. That has continued to this day. It was one of the most marketable films because they pushed it so hard because they wanted it to compete with Disney, and it worked. It was an irreverent version of a fairy tale to make fun of the tradition of Disney doing fairy tale movies from Snow White onward. They're making fun of them. They're dancing on them. There's also a transition from hand-drawn animation to digital animation using things like Macromedia Flash and other such things. There's three branches of there's three branches of animation from here on. There's the film animation that's going on, there's the television animation that's going on, and the indie internet animation that's going on mostly Newgrounds at this early stage. And Newgrounds is a Flash hosting website where you could post little animations. In 2001, Disney releases Treasure Planet. Now, I feel kind of bad for dunking on Disney before in the Shrek part, but because Treasure Planet is a really fantastic movie that gets basically slept on by modern audiences. It's kind of a flop, kind of iconic. I mentioned it here so people might check it out. It's one of the first feature films to involve digital elements. There's a lot of 3D that works very seamlessly in here. But it also depicts Disney as kind of losing it. They're losing their grip on the culture. Here's some stuff that came out in the 2000s. I really liked Ponyo, Spirited Away, I already talked about. Madagascar from DreamWorks, obviously very influential. The film Robots is underrated. Coraline, another very good stop motion animated thing. You can see in the middle column there's a movie called A Scanner Darkly, which was entirely animated by Rotoscope. You also can see Redline and Paprika. That's some really amazing stuff from Japanese animation. There's too many animators to list now, so I'm going to narrow the scope quite a bit. And instead of being more comprehensive history lesson, I'm just going to list the modern animators that I really like. And I promise, I'm getting to the vivziepop shit. I'm getting to the Homestuck shit. You guys just got to hang in there. Thank you for bearing with me for so long. Just a little more to go before I get into the actual... I'm getting into the drama. I'm going to get into the dirt. We're all going to have fun with this drama video, all right? So this is Satoshi Kon, and he created the two films Paprika and Perfect Blue. He also did a video or a film called Tokyo Godfathers, which is one of my personal favorite movies. And he is a wonderfully vivid, psychedelic animator from Japan. His stuff gets shown a lot. He much like Richard Williams, deserves every droplet of spittle that people suck him off with. You have Genndy Tartakovsky, who is one of a very stylistic animator. If you've seen his stuff, you know what I mean. He does a lot of pose-to-pose stuff. He does a lot of very fluid animations. He did Samurai Jack, Dexter's Laboratory. He did the direction on Hotel Transylvania. Just a great guy. Very influential, very prolific. Still makes stuff today. Really good guy. Awesome. You have Lauren Faust, who worked on Powerpuff Girls and went on to do My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which is one of the more popular pieces of animation recently. A lot of people still love My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Best Pwn, it's tough. I'm between Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash, but Rarity is good, Fluttershy is great, Applejack's wonderful. I don't know. I can't pick a best Pwn. If I were to really be pressured, I guess I would say Pinkie Pie. You have Craig McCracken, who is another guy from this tradition of Genndy Tartakovsky coming up in the 90s, who's made stuff, worked on the Powerpuff Girls with Lauren Faust. You can see the professor down there, worked on Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Really wonderful stuff. Has a more recent thing called Kid Cosmic, which is on Netflix. Oh, he did Wander Over Yonder. Holy fuck. That's my favorite fucking animated show. Wander Over Yonder, amazing stuff. You can probably honestly find Wander Over Yonder like on YouTube, because it's not on fucking Disney Plus anymore, I'm pretty sure, but Wander Over Yonder, wonderful stuff. Craig McCracken is goated. You have Kyoto Animation and Gainax Trigger, and Kyoto Animation is just one of... these are my three favorite Japanese animation studios. I'm not an anime guy, so forgive me if these are kind of basic. Kyoto Animation does a lot of painterly stuff. They do a lot of really cutesy moe stuff. My favorite anime from them is Beyond the Boundary. And then Studio Trigger is responsible for most of the stuff that goes on Adult Swim in the modern era. You have Little Witch Academia, you have Darling in the Franxx, you have Kill la Kill, you have Delicious in Dungeon. You have that fucking one with the sexy robot that everyone makes pornography from. The fucking blue robot. And then Neon Genesis Evangelion, obviously. Oh, they also did... Trigger did Neon Genesis... Or, Gurren Lagann, which is amazing. I fucking love Gurren Lagann. You have Sylvain Chomet, who is a French guy. I learned about him through a Simpsons couch gag. But Sylvain Chomet is wonderful. The Triplets of Belleville is just an amazing film. If you like the art style of the Professor Layton games, you'll really love Triplets of Belleville. It's just a very stylistically interesting film. It's very vivid, but at the same time, it's very cartoonish. Let's see here. Next, we'll talk about the internet animation. Indie avant-garde animation comes out at this time and really starts to stretch its wings. There are a lot of video game parodies. There are a lot of Gary's Mod, Source Filmmaker stuff, but most of it is concentrated in Flash animation. And here are some internet animators that I really like. And this is in no particular order. And don't worry, we're getting to the fucking drama. We're getting to all the drama. We're gonna be able to eat our slop very soon. Don't worry about it. But Syriac is a guy on YouTube. I don't know if they're a guy, actually. They did an animation called 7 Billion, and they have a bunch of other psychedelic stuff. You have Felix Calgrave, who did Double King. They also did one recently called Donks. Felix Calgrave is very fluid. He's an Australian chap who is just wonderful. He just makes stuff on his own terms, and I really like that. It also looks beautiful. Great colors, great fluid motion. You have Grickle. Used to be bigger, kind of popular. He has a couple of shorts. He did the game Puzzle Agent, and he did a thing called Smartest Dog in the World. It's a pretty good little animated short. Kind of jokey, but again, someone who used to be more popular but kind of fell off the map. You have BB Ponzu. Lol. What a good... I don't know. This is... I'm just calling out something like an acquaintance of mine right now. Like, BB Ponzu, we haven't spoken much, but, you're doing fucking good work, man. All right. Quick round one. There's Pymations with Sheriff Hayseed. You know who Pymations is. There's Cusack Creatures as Bushworld. Cusack Creatures went on to do Smiling Friends. Big Les Show, which is a guy animated this stuff in MS Paint, which I find amazing. There's Terminal Montage, who does stuff. There's Lumpy Touch, who does like horror stuff. Pringus McDingus is another name you probably know. And then Too Many Snacks is a very fluid and very vivid animator who does like VTuber stuff. I like those. There's Speedoroo, who does Punch Punch Forever. I think enough people have seen Punch Punch Forever that I don't have to get into it. It's a parody of older anime. Why did I say anime like that? What? That's a weird way to say it. Anyway, it's kind of a pastiche on old anime. So, yeah. You have David Firth, who used to do Salad Fingers and now does really interesting short films like Cream. Cream is very worth watching. It's kind of creepy and weird, but, it's good. David Firth also voice acts on Smiling Friends now. He's the fellow who sounds like this. He's the little bug creature. You have Joanna Davidovich. Not like a formal animator. She just did one thing that I really, really love, which is a music video for the Monkey Rag by the Asylum Street Spankers. Really worth checking out. It's free on YouTube. And then we have quick round number 2. You have the Newgrounds boys, who are like, Oni Plays, Psychic Pebbles, Egoraptor, Rubber Ross. I don't have to describe these people to you. They're all fucking Let's Players now, which I find very funny. I think Rubber Ross is like a streamer. So, I don't know. It's a funny pivot. You have YP Corp, who is not like super well known, but did this really good fucking Earthbound send-up, which is just, to me, very funny and hilarious. It's like free. It's a fucking feature-length Earthbound movie. Just watch it. It's really funny. Don't watch it if you haven't watched Earthbound, though. It relies on you already have playing the games. You have Worthy Kids, who does, Big Top Burger. Really good stuff. Worthy Kids is amazing. Next, we have a quick round. We have Joe Kappa, who does the, I don't remember what he calls it, but it's this show about, like, fucking just 3 brothers who, like, are... I don't know how to describe him, but he got a show recently. Joe Kappa actually got a show, I think, on Adult Swim, so that's great. Joel Haver does rotoscope stuff. Joel Haver was featured on Smiling Friends. Rude Jack Art. Greasy Tales. Greasy Tales does Gooseman stuff. They do Fernando stuff. It's like just very vile, horrible animations about femboys and like just... Greasy Tales is a reflection of the counterculture. There's Itchalore, who does a lot of cool stuff with 3D. Chucklebone, just really funny animations, very stylized. And then there's Anatola Howard, who they have a comic about a gay rabbit, and they do some cool stuff. Film Cow. I'm fucking glad I put this here. Jason Steele of Film Cow is excellent. He did Charlie the Unicorn, which is his most famous thing, but he recently did this mini-series called The Fall of Shadowstone Park. which is amazing. It's free on YouTube, and it has a lot of the intrigue of an actual TV show. I think he's a better writer than animator, and I think he might agree with me if I said that. But all of his stuff is worth checking out. There's Mike Karff, who does Bridge Kids. I want to say Mike Karff also got an Adult Swim show, so these people are coming up. This is great. And obviously you have Glitch and Gooseworks. Gooseworks, longtime animator, did a lot of cool, like, kind of psychedelic, colorful horror stuff, like Little Runmo. And then Glitch had recently the Knights of Guinevere pilot drop. That was very good. I watched that with my girlfriend. We really enjoyed it. Okay, now, all of that context is out of the way. I have described all of the context that has led up to the Homestuck pilot from vivziepop, and we are going to finally talk about the drama surrounding it, and all of the cool drama that people love to talk about on YouTube to get clicks, to get engagements, to get all kinds of stuff. And this is going to be so much fun. It's going to be fun to dunk on Homestuck and hate on it and hate on the people who make it. And we're going to get to enjoy all that. And don't you hate vivziepop? Isn't vivziepop so annoying and stupid? vivziepop. So, my opinion on vivziepop is this. She like made 2 shows, and they were pretty good. I didn't watch all of them. I really like the pilot to Has-Been Hotel, but I didn't really keep up with it because I don't have an Amazon. So like, I guess I don't know her work that well. The designs are kind of fun. I like the use of red, I guess. I mean, she did a character of Alistair, who's a radio boy. So yeah, that's basically vivziepop. Guys, I got a confession to make. I don't have a drama video for you at all. I feel really bad about this because I know how much you guys like drama, but I just don't, I don't have one. I didn't actually watch the Homestuck trailer, and I didn't watch the Homestuck animated pilot. And I just want to apologize to you guys. I don't actually know that much about the pilot because I didn't watch it and I don't care about it. I just wanted to make this video to seem like I had something to say. If you guys could do me a favor though, could you guys pretend that I made like a really complicated drama video? And so when you link this video on like Blue Sky or Twitter or wherever, you can say something like, oh my god, did you know this about Homestuck? Or like, oh my god, I didn't know that about vivziepop. So that I can get a lot of clicks and get a lot of ad revenue. I would really like that. If you did that for me, I would say thank you. But yeah, I really feel bad for not having a drama video because I know how morally good it is to like do drama videos. I know how much value it puts into the world to like do drama videos and how much how much value it has and how much good it brings to the world, and I just I really feel bad that I wasn't able to provide that for you guys. So I don't know. I hope that someday you'll be able to forgive me and like, comment, and subscribe. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. This video is sponsored by Private Network VPN. This video is sponsored by your mom. And this was a waste of everyone's time. And I hope that you've learned your lesson. I hope that you've learned the lesson of don't get your time wasted, stupid. So, you know, when you go away from this video, when you leave, when you click out of this browser, I hope that at least I have made your day slightly imperceptibly worse. And if I have, then I've done what I came here to do. I also want to tell you guys, I had to turn my fan off to like record this video, and I had to shut my window. And the sun is fucking boiling me alive in this room. So I hope you guys appreciate the lengths that I have gone to bring you this waste of time. And I hope that as we kind of finish up with this video, you've at least learned something about the history of animation. All of what I've just told you was essentially contained in a history of animation class that I took long ago. And I want to shout out the teacher that I had for that history of animation, class. But she had a weird name that I can't pronounce. I think it was Polish. It had a lot of consonant clusters. And I really, I'm not fucking around right now. I'd feel bad about that. I want to shout her out, but I can't. She had an accent, too. She had like a weird little Russian kind of style accent that was actually quite soothing. She spoke English very well. It was like a free ASMR video, because the class was also at like 7 a.m. And so when you're up at 7 a.m., you basically do not want to like hear a beautiful voiced woman explaining animation to you. That just puts you to sleep. I had to work so hard to pay attention to that class. But so shout out to you. If you are an animation teacher with a strange Polish name, then please feel free to take credit for that, because I'm sure you're doing a great job. Yeah, anyway, if you're still watching this video, I don't know why. I'm just kind of filling time in the hopes that people will like see the runtime of this video and hope that I eventually get around to talking about drama. But I'm not going to do that. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but I honest to God am probably just, I'm not going to watch the Homestuck thing. I got too much shit going on. I got a job. I'm going to the Ren Fair. When this video drops, I'll probably be at the Ren Fair. So to end everything off, though, I want to read you a riddle that I wrote. I've got them all written down in my riddle notebook, and I want you to post the answer to the riddle in the comments. And if you know the answer to the riddle, it will prove that you watched the whole video. Where the fuck are... There we go. Here's the riddle. I got a lot of riddles in here. Let's see. Some of these are really lame. Oh, here we go. Here's the riddle. You hold things in me, so near they will stay. But when you stand, I vanish away. What am I? And if you're curious, that is the oh shit. Oh fuck. My fucking alarm's going off. I had an alarm set to when I had to like meet up with my dad, so I'm running late. I gotta get out of here. You guys were all right. You guys were fun. You guys were great. I love you guys. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, so go to Skillshare.com and type in dick and ball torture to Skillshare to get 20% off of me coming to your house and calling you stupid. And I hope that everyone has a great day and that I love you, and I'll see you later. And